McLaren in 2021 had a good reason in which they had a top midfield car, and would fight for podiums and get them regularly, with Lando Norris getting 4 through the season, and his first pole position. But the highlight of their season has to be the 1-2 in Monza, and the only 1-2 of the whole season. However, they did fall back behind Ferrari and finished in P4 in the constructors' standings, and they look to improve under the new regulations in 2022. In truth, McLaren looked very handy in the first preseason test in Barcelona, and people thought, could McLaren be fighting at the front again? The answer to that question come the race in Bahrain would be a very easy no. The car in truth was awful. Ricciardo didn't get out in Q1, and Norris didn't get out of Q2. Ouch! The car was pretty much one of the worst other than the Aston Martin and Williams cars, and they would score no points and finish P14 and P15. A lot of work to do. In Saudi Arabia, the team steadily improved, with Norris taking home a P7, but there was still not a lot of pace, whilst Ricciardo had a DNF, due to an engine issue which of course hurt his confidence a bit. Next up, we have the home of Danny Rick, where McLaren actually had a really good weekend, and finished P5 and P6, which is pretty much the best of the rest, due to there being 3 top teams this season. And this was a real surprise to us all, to be honest, but massive for McLaren's season. Imola was huge for the team, as Lando Norris would take the only non-Mercedes, Red Bull or Ferrari podium of the whole season. To go from having an awful car in Bahrain to getting a podium just a couple of races later is amazing. Miami, however, the race after was shocking. Ricciardo would once again be outside the points, and Lando would have an accident with Gasly, meaning he DNF'd. A weekend to forget once again. Spain was next, and somehow Lando Norris would take P9, whilst feeling very sick to the point he wouldn't talk on the radio at all, whilst guess what? Ricciardo was out of the points once again. Shock. Next, the drivers would go to Monte Carlo and Monaco, where Ricciardo would bin it in Monaco, and in the race would finish in P11, whilst Lando had quite a good race. He would finish P6, and would get the fastest laps and probably should have gotten P5, if you could actually overtake at Monaco. Baku would be the place where Ricciardo would actually finish ahead of Lando Norris with the 2017 race winner, here finishing P8 with Lando behind him. It was becoming more and more apparent that they would be in a fight with Alpine for the best of the rest spot in P4. Canada would be poor, with Lando having engine issues in qualifying and the race, meaning that he was out the points. Could Ricciardo score any? Of course he wouldn't, finishing in P11 as he had done so many times in 2022. Again at the British Grand Prix, you would have Ricciardo just outside the points due to a DRS issue, which halted his progress once again. However, Lando would again finish in P6 to pick up some valuable points for the team. Austria would be good for the team, as both drivers would score points, with Ricciardo in P9 and Lando ahead in P7. He must love number 7, a solid weekend, but Alpine scored more points, so could be better. At the halfway point of the season, McLaren would have back-to-back double-point finishes, with Lando in P7 and Daniel in P9. However, Alpine would once again outscore them, so they had to make sure both drivers get in the points. Hungary, normal service it seemed for McLaren, resumed with Lando in P7. And guess where Ricciardo was? You guessed it, just outside the points, and after this race, McLaren told Daniel he was going to be replaced for 2023. After the summer break in Belgium, the team did not score any points once again, whilst their closest rivals scored a huge 16 points. A lot of work had to be done in the final third of the season to make sure they finish in P4. The Netherlands and Zandvoort were up next, and once again Lando Norris finished in P7, whilst Ricciardo was once again outside the points and Alpine outscored them too. It seems to be just Lando Norris versus Alpine and not McLaren versus Alpine for P4. Back to the place where the team had so much joy in 2021, Monza. It would not be the return that they wanted, with yet again Norris in P7, and Ricciardo retiring due to an issue with his car. But they did outscore Alpine here, which is a plus. Singapore would be McLaren's best result to date, with them scoring a huge 22 points with Norris in P4, and Ricciardo in P5, all whilst Alpine had a double DNF, so this swung the momentum back to McLaren once again. In Japan, however, it would be huge gains for Alpine, as McLaren picked up just 1 point with Lando and Alpine took home 18. So all that hard work done in Singapore was gone because of the poor performance in Japan. Moving towards North America now for the United States Grand Prix in Austin, Texas. McLaren would outscore Alpine, or should I say Lando Norris outscored Alpine, with another P6 finish, leaving it all to play for going into the final 3 races. Mexico would once again outscore Alpine with Ricciardo in P7 and Norris in P9, so going into the final 2 rounds it was all up to McLaren to make sure they outscore Alpine for P4. Brazil would pretty much end McLaren's surge, as they would have their first double DNF since Monaco 2017. This happened all whilst Alpine scored 14 points, meaning that in Abu Dhabi, McLaren would have to get a P4, P5, and a double Alpine DNF or pointless race. Very unlikely. Finally, in Abu Dhabi, would a miracle happen? No, of course not. They outscored Alpine by 5 points. But that was not enough, and the end of quite a poor season. Overall, McLaren took a step backwards in 2022, when they expected to move forward, dropping from P4 in the standings in 2021 to P5 in 2022. They were the only midfield team to score a podium, but they hope with Oscar Piastri and Lando Norris next season, they can move back to the top of the midfield. Thank you for watching, and make sure to drop a like and hit that subscribe button for more awesome videos just like this one.